Isaiah. Now I got to tell you a little bit about Isaiah before we start. Isaiah is considered, and someone asked me this the other day, some folks didn't know. They said, why do you preachers and teachers and people say that Isaiah is a major prophet and the last 12 are minor prophets? And the first question they think is, it's more important, but that has nothing to do with it. Every word in the Bible is important. We call them major and minor prophets simply because of the size of them. Isaiah, Jeremiah, those five are so large, and we had to divide them, so somebody years ago, I don't even know who did it, probably Matthew Henry, probably knowing him. But somebody said the first five are the major prophets and the last 12 are the minor prophets. No verse in the Bible is minor. Every verse in the Bible is the Word of God. Isaiah was a wonderful prophet that had a burden for Israel, and a real burden, and suffered a lot himself, and was having to give a message. If you read Isaiah, he was having to give a pretty hard message. It was one of the stronger prophet messages, because whenever he wrote the book of Isaiah, Israel was backslidden, they were in captivity, and they had walked away from God again, and God used Isaiah to prophesy to them. And so always keep that in mind about Isaiah. Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet, simply because he weeps so much in the book of Jeremiah. But Isaiah is a wonderful book. What I'm going to do, this is going to take at least 2 messages to preach this, so just going to do a few minutes of introduction tonight, kind of, and try to set the stage. Look in chapter 5. Now keep in mind that this is Isaiah, and literally speaking, he's talking to the nation of Israel. You've always got to remember, when you study the Bible, I haven't done this, well, I probably need to do it one Sunday. I haven't done it in a long time. When you study the Bible, there's some things you got to know. You got to know who wrote the book. You got to know who they wrote it to, literally, and when it was written, and kind of what was going on around it. You say, well, I have to be a theologian. Now, you can get some couple of simple books and do that. You can get a Customs of the Bible day that will tell you what the customs were in each book, and you can get a simple book like Concordance and stuff like that, or have a chain reference Bible that'll refer you to different verses in the Bible that say the same thing it's saying. But in chapter 5, I'm going to major on verses 8 through verses 22. And I'm going to read them, that whole passage, but I'm going to stop in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places briefly, but I'm going to get the same point across, because it sets up for what we're going to say in chapter 6. And what happens, chapter 6 of Isaiah is one of my favorite chapters of the Bible, and we'll be in it the next message. Look at verse number 8. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the world. And I love to go to Mr. Henry here, tell you what he said about verse 8. The eagerness of the world and the indulgence of the flesh are the 2 main sins against which Isaiah, this prophet, has denounced these woes. Here is a woe to those, now watch this, who set their hearts upon the wealth of the world, who join house to house and lay field to field, till there be no place, no room for anybody to live by them. So he's saying here, woe to you, and he's talking about, again, like Mr. Henry said, that the indulgences of the flesh, things, materialism, greed, getting all you can for yourself, and not thinking of others. And, in the nation of Israel, God always made them think of others and poor people, remember? And strangers. I mean, when they would, when they would plant barley and corn and stuff in the field, and when they gleaned it, they would glean all the middle parts and the main parts, and they would leave corners of the field unharvested. And the reason they would do that is for strangers or neighbors that their crop wasn't doing well. So it was kind of like their quote-unquote welfare plan, which is a lot better than our quote-unquote welfare plan is. Because the people had to go work and get the stuff. Somebody say amen. It was there, but they had to go get it. So God was always about not it being about you. See, that is so contrary in our day. And even in the church, we make everything about us almost. And it's not about me individually, and it's not about you individually. It's about the body of Christ as a whole. Amen. And we're supposed to gain in life and make money and get nice things as we can and plan and prepare, but we're also supposed to help others. We're also supposed to be willing, to help others. And that's what he's saying here in verse 8. But I want you to remember in this verse the first word, and that's woe. Now we'll read, in mine ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitant. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bath, and the seed of an omer, that's just measurements they used back then, of a homer shall yield an ephah. Now look at verse 11, and we see the word woe for the second time. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning. Now there ain't nothing wrong with getting up early in the morning. Finish the statement. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them. I have gotten so frustrated, and I'm sure some of you have too lately, about this gun control thing. We got to ban guns. We got to do this or that. But last year in America, according to Wikipedia and Google, 88,000 deaths were alcohol related. 14,000 automobile drunk driving related deaths. 14,000. 6,000 people were killed with guns last year. Did you hear the numbers? 88,000. And you know what you and I know? It was a lot more than that. Matter of fact, Wikipedia said, when I looked it up on Google, they said you probably could double and triple this number. But nobody's saying ban alcohol. Nobody's mentioning it. You know why? Because we're mixed all up. We're morally bankrupt. And they like to say things like, well, we make lots of tax money from liquor. Do you realize what liquor cost us? Do you realize you could cut the jails, Brother Joe, in a third if you took alcohol out of America? Did you know that? Did you know you'd have to have half the policemen you have? Half of the officers? If it wasn't for alcohol-related problems? So no, we're not gaining by getting their taxes. We got more hospitals, more jails, more prisons, more rehab centers because of the stuff. You say, preacher, you don't like alcohol. Did you get that idea already? What I don't like is it's bankrupt in America. And what God says here, woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink. You know, I was thinking about this, and I hate sitting on up. When I went and stayed with my cousin Terry and Mandy, my Aunt Pat lives with them. Aunt Pat was married to my Uncle Arnold, which was Mama's baby brother. And they were married for 18, 20 years and had 2 kids. Her daughter and his daughter is the one I stayed with in the Mid-Eye. Mandy and her husband Terry. They've been here at church. They're coming in a few weeks. But anyway, I remember, Brother Joe, when I was probably in my 20s, and I just started pastoring, and Mama, I had to go to my uncle's house for some reason real early in the morning and take something to him. He worked at Cleaners Hangers, and Mama sent him something, and I took him to him where I ever went to school. And sitting beside his nightstand was hard liquor already. 7 o'clock in the morning. He was already drinking. And I don't mean beer. He graduated from beer long before that. And I love him. And I believe he went to heaven. I led him to Christ. You know, I believe he did. But the bottle killed him. It cost him his job. He had 25 years. His boss, the owner of Cleaners Hangers, liked him so much that when he had the alcohol problem, he put him in a now listen, this was in the 1980s. He put him in a $5,000 rehab program. You know what Arnold did? Snuck liquor in through his wife. And got kicked out, lost his job. Long story made short, I love him, but he had a rough life because of the drinking. And what God says here, when you wake up in the morning and one of your main goals is to get some drink during the day, and you continue until night. Now watch what it says, till wine inflame them. I wonder how many of those gun deaths wouldn't have happened if alcohol wouldn't have been in the person that did the shooting. They estimate, I don't, they do now, 3/4 of them. 75% of them. Alcohol is bad. It impairs your judgment. It makes you not think properly. It makes you do things you don't even know you did. I mean, it leads to destruction. Oh, you know, I'm just a social drinker. There aren't many of those. Okay? There are some, I imagine. I mean, I've known one or two. You just drink a beer here and a beer there, but that's probably 2% of the people that drink beer and alcohol. So God says in verse 8, he says, woe unto them, about being greedy and all. In verse 11, he says, woe unto them about the strong drink. Now let's go on down to verse 13. Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. You know what's sad? I don't think we have too many people in politics today in our government that's real honest people. I hate to say that, but I just don't believe there's too many George Washingtons running around. I don't believe that. I really don't. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure. Hell's getting bigger. You know why hell's getting bigger? Because more people are going to hell. It has to get bigger. And their glory and their multitude and their pomp and their rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled. Now they didn't say they might be. It said they shall be. And the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled, but the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment. And God that is holy, bless his holy name, shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. Verse 18, woe number 3. Woe unto them, third one. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin, as it were, with the cart rope. They say, let him make speed, and hasten his work, that we may see it. And watch this. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel, and come, that we may know it. Such liars. Verse 20, woe number 4. Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil. Could that describe our day? Yep. Could that describe our day?
Amen.
You know, I told you I watch them old programs a lot. Years ago, I was watching Andy Griffith or something. I forgot what it was. I was watching an old show. And I talked to myself, and I said to myself, why do you watch these old shows? And I think, Brother Joe, I figured it out. I think I like the America that was then.
Amen.
It had its problems now, and we need to get some things better, I agree. But boy, it was a different America.
Yep.
I mean, what Andy taught Opie constantly was to tell the truth. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Don't steal. Don't be mean to your friends. That's the stuff that was taught. I hate to tell you what's taught now in the seculars. But they're pushing the gay agenda, abortion, liquor, sexual promiscuity. That's what's on them now. And what it is they say evil's good and good's evil. So our kids, these teenagers, I'm sorry to say, they don't know the difference. See, we knew the difference. I mean, we knew the difference. I mean, my dad made sure of that. Your dad and mom made sure of that. They taught us, hey, you're not doing that, boy. I mean, that ain't right. You're not doing that. No, we don't do that around here. I mean, the Beatles came along and everybody got long hair in the school, but not me. I wore a crew cut.
Amen.
Well, it wasn't amen then, but it is now. Amen. It is now, Brother Mike, I agree, but back then I didn't want to wear a crew cut when everybody else had long hair and I come in there like Skip Santa. But it was understood. And my dad wasn't even a dedicated Christian. I told some folks, it makes these young parents mad, but it's just a fact. My dad was a better Christian parent as a non-Christian than most Christian parents are now.
Yep.
He really did. I couldn't play rock music in my house. Now, I used to get on to him because he played his country. But now, country back then was a little different. I ain't saying it was right. But, Charlie Pride, oh, the snakes crawl at night. That's quite different than rock music. I know all them songs. I'm sorry, I can't remember the second verse of Blessed Assurance, but I can sing every one of them stupid songs. I mean, I turned on public education station one night, and they had CCR in the 1976 concert, and I sang every word of every song. Just knew them. Can't remember the second verse of a Christian song sometimes. It's because your flesh is wicked. Somebody say amen. Amen. That's what it remembers the bad stuff easier. It just happens that way. You know what I mean? That's what I told Brother John Hurd, your son, Bug, I still think, had one of the funniest statements. He came home and didn't do good on his report card. Brother John was getting on to him. Bug said, Daddy, listen, if that girl sitting next to me would have applied herself better, we'd have made better grades. I said, yeah, man. Help me, Jesus. I took Spanish for a whole year, sat in the back with my girlfriend on one of them desks where there's two chairs. And all I knew at the end of the year was 4 Spanish words. But I passed it because I hate to say this, pray for me. She took my test for me, Amen? But it says here, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. See, what we've done and what God is saying here, what Isaiah is doing, we're going to get to the second part of the message next week. But do you see woe number 1 in verse 8 about greed and selfishness? Do you see woe number 2 in verse 11 about alcohol, strong drink? I hate this stuff. You say, I hate it. It does more damage in America than anything else does, I can tell you. It's done more damage to morally bankrupt this country than anything has. And God said, woe to them in verse 11. Then he says, woe in verse 18 for the vanity. Then he says in verse 20, woe to them because they call evil good and good evil. That's what we're doing now. Yep. What used to be wrong isn't wrong. I don't think Isaiah worried about it, Brother John. Isaiah just said, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for... I just told you, our kids don't have no idea. You know, I was talking to my cousin Mandy last night, and she's taking some college classes, and she was telling me about, she just took some history stuff. And we're studying, you know, and she was telling me some things she had learned. Of course, I mean, and she knows this. She's born again Christian. They're dedicated Christians. They go to North Jacksonville Baptist, and Mandy's good as gold. Terry is too. But we was talking about this thing, and she said to me, she said, you know, did you know, Brother Ed, in the 1700s, the first building that a settlement built was the church?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I knew that. The school wasn't the first one, Mother Mike's. History will tell you. When they settled a community, they built the church first. Then they built the schools. Then they built the government offices. I mean, see, folks, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, everything we have is connected to the moral values of the Word of God.
That's right.
I mean, I just read some stuff. Me and Mandy were talking, and I got on Google while we was talking. If you ever want to read a good book, if you've never read it, David Barton wrote a book. You ever read it, Brother Mike, Original Intent?
I never read that one. I've read it.
That original intent, he takes and tells what our forefathers intended. He proves it with their statements and their positions and their legislation and everything. Thomas Jefferson, all them guys. It's an awesome book. You ever want to read about our legal system in our country, you read Original Intent by David Barton. And he said back then, from 1660 to 1710 in New England, if you didn't go to both church services, you were fined. You were fined by the community. I wish we'd go back to that, bless God, amen. And if you don't come, the church ties will get better. Somebody say amen.
There you go.
But see, you know, the great, what was the guy's name that came from France and said, no, wait a minute. Yeah, he said that, but Benjamin Harrison, the president, said this. He said, as long as America stays good with God, America will stay great.
That's right.
But the day America removes God is the day America will stop being good and America will struggle.
Yep.
Benjamin Harrison, our president, said that. You don't read that. You don't hear that stuff on CNN, CBS. You don't hear none of that stuff. But I'm going somewhere here. Because here's the problem with that. These kids don't know right and wrong. And what's sad about it, some of their parents, oh yeah, they don't go to church, don't believe in God. So they ain't going to have any moral values from the Word of God. They're going to not know anything about our history as a country the way it really was. They're not going to know anything about evil, good, good, evil. So here, let's see what Isaiah is saying here. He says, woe in verse 8, woe in verse 11, woe in verse 18, woe in verse 20. Now look at verse 21. He says, woe again. He says, well, by the way, he said, what's wrong with the word woe? Okay. Matthew Henry again. Okay. I've been reading his stuff like crazy lately. Okay. Matthew Henry said, when God uses the word woe, watch what else he does. Let's read verse 21. It always has a strong connotation to it. And it has something else in common. It ends with an exclamation point. Do you see verse 8? Earth. Do you see verse 11? Them. You have a non-finished sentence in verse 18, but it ends in 19 with exclamation point. And then verse 20, exclamation point. Verse 21, exclamation point. Now why is that important? Because that means God's saying, man, this is important. What comes behind woe is always important in the Bible. It's always really important. when God says woe. So Isaiah said in verse 21, he said, woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes. Goodness, is that this generation? Help me, Jesus. If they knew a third of what they thought they knew. Like Sean Hannity said a few weeks ago. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their... Now, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with feeling wise in your own eyes? Where does wisdom come from?
Comes from God.
If any man lack wisdom, let him...
Ask of God.
What?
Ask of God.
The fear of the Lord is the what?
Beginning of wisdom.
The beginning of... So somebody doesn't believe in God or fear the Lord, they're fools. That's what the Bible says. And they have no wisdom. Wisdom comes from God. Wisdom is what we... And we get wise in our own eyes. The book of Proverbs says, be not wise in your own deceits. You know, now that we can deceive ourselves. We all do it. Somebody say amen.
Amen.
We all do it. I deceive myself. You deceive yourself. You can't go by your own wisdom. It's God's wisdom that matters.
Amen.
It's wisdom from God that matters. There is no wisdom apart from God.
Amen.
If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God.
Amen.
And then it says, he giveth liberally and upbraideth him with. Otherwise, God wants you to ask him. I mean, remember Solomon in the Bible? When God said, what do you want? What did Solomon ask for?
Wisdom.
Wisdom. What did God give him? Wisdom and riches. God said, I'll give you what you ask for, and I'll give you the riches and the other stuff to go with it. And Solomon was one of the richest men that's ever lived. But he was a wise man too. Remember when the two mamas claimed the baby?
Yeah.
Remember that? Huh? The two mamas said, that's my baby. And Solomon, knowing what he was doing, said, let's just take a sword and cut him in half. And the real mama said, no, it's hers. He's hers. Solomon knew right then who the mama was.
That's right.
That's wisdom. Where'd that come from? God. You remember the Ecclesiastes? The writer of Ecclesiastes says, I didn't know where I was coming in or going out. But we're so wise in this day. I mean, we're in our own eyes. Look at the last woe here in verse 22. Woe. Now, this is amazing. This is kind of amazing. How many woes have we covered? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he's going to repeat one of them. Just one of them. Which one does he repeat? Well, let's see. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward. Watch this. And take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Now, here I told you this introduction. So Isaiah says in chapter 5. Now keep in mind that Israel, during Isaiah's writing, was in captivity. Remember he said right here a while ago, he said, my people's in captivity and they're okay. And when Isaiah was prophesying this prophecy, it wasn't Matthew Henry, but I looked at another book by Amos, somebody, I can't think of his last name now. He wrote in the 1800s or something. He said, I was reading it this afternoon at the house, and he said that, let me get this straight. I don't want to get mixed up here, okay? He said that Israel was at their lowest point in their entire history when Isaiah prophesied. They were almost about to be extinguished. They were right there at God just saying, that's it. Amen? Now, we're going to go to chapter 6 for just 5 minutes tonight. And then the woes will set up the next message. Go to chapter 6 of Isaiah. And we're just going to read the first 2 verses. In the year that King Uzziah died, King Uzziah was a good king. I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. I'm going to read 5 verses. I'm going to preach 3 minutes, and then next week we'll be in chapter 6 and finish. Above it stood the seraphims, that's angelic beings. Each one had 6 wings. Now watch what he says here. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried. And the house was filled with smoke. Here's the one point I'm going to preach on. It's kind of doing it a little backwards. We're going to go back to verse 1 next week and see about Uzziah, see about the seraphims, the covering their face, covering their feet, and flying. All represent something. But look at verse 5. Then said I, woe, what's the difference here? Woe is who? Now wait a minute. Let's see. In chapter 5 in verse 8 he said, woe unto them. In chapter 5 verse 11 he said, woe unto them. In chapter 5 verse 18 he said, woe unto them. In chapter 20 he said, woe unto them. In verse 21 he said, woe unto them. In verse 22 he said, woe unto them. In chapter 6 verse 5 he says, woe is me! What's happened? Well, if you read verses 1, 2, 3, and 4, you'll see. He saw the Lord. So let me tell you something. When a man sees God, you know, and I'm not saying I was in this kind of situation. Yesterday was a weird day for me. Like I said, my plans were to, I bought my license and my bait and all that, and I was going to go fishing, I was going to do this or that. And I went out to eat with the kids, and I sat down there at the beach on the picnic table for a while, and it just didn't feel good, and I read a little reading, and I came home, and I got in the room, closed the door, and got my Bible, got to listen to sermons, and I heard a message. And the message was, the closer you get to God, the worse you look, and the greater he looks. See, Isaiah says in chapter 5, woe is them, 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 woe is them. But when he sees God all of a sudden, woe is me. You want revival? See, and I'm not, and I know what I'm doing here. I really do. I'm not lifting nobody up right now. But God's got a hold of Brother Joe in them. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? What I like about Brother Joe, and I've talked to him, he's always giving God glory every time. I like that. And you know this, Brother Joe, let me preach to you just a minute. Guess what the devil wants to do now? See, he'd love to get you to fall flat in your face, talk to some dissatisfied member that criticizes the church or me or something, and before you know it, you're out of church again. I'll make a rule. Somebody does that, we'll break their legs. Amen? They can't say something positive, so you don't want to hear it. Get out of it. No, sir, but I'll hire somebody. Brother Jim will. I'll pay Brother Jim. Brother Jim can break some legs if he needs to or whatever. Oh, you want to do it by yourself? Well, no, we might need their money, so don't kill them. Okay, don't do that. You break their legs or whatever. Yeah. But here's the deal, real quick. What happened was God got a hold of them a few weeks ago. And they saw the Lord. And when you see the Lord, you see yourself. And see, when you see yourself, you see how short you are of God. And all of a sudden, when that light is shown, you start seeing things you didn't see need to be changed. Amen? I mean, I do business, appliances, and we do pictures on Facebook and Craigslist and all that. You've got to be real careful about some people's pictures. See, what I'll tell them when they call me this, I got a washer and dryer, do you want it, or whatever, and I'll say, yeah, and I'll say, send me a picture of it. But you've got to be careful sometimes, because a picture can look different than it does. And if it take them a long ways off, I always call them back and say, give me a closer shot. Because a long ways off, it looks like a Kenmore, and up front it's a Frigidaire. Somebody say amen. Long ways off, it's a direct drive, and real up close, it's some little world watcher. See, that's what the Lord does. When His light is shown on your life, and you get close enough to Him. See, and I'll close with this, I promise you, because I'm going to preach on it Sunday morning. Yesterday, the message I heard, second message, I think it was, the Lord just goodness. I was sitting there, I was aggravated because I really wanted to catch some big drum and shark, and I really wanted to fish, I never get to, and but I know why, because I needed to do what I did. And in that message, He shone a spotlight. I mean, it was like a floodlight, they call it, on something that I hadn't really thought about that much. So my challenge to you is, you've got to get close to Him. And although He was right about the woes, and He was a prophet, by the way, and was supposed to do that, but you and I like to say about them too much. And we also like to make ourselves look better because of how bad they're doing. But see, you don't compare yourself to another human being. You compare yourself to Christ.
That's right.
The standard is Jesus. Right?
Amen.
We're trying to be like Jesus, not like Mike. Like Jesus. One illustration. In New Zealand, before it became inhabited by thousands of people, it became a commercial place. 50% of the birds on New Zealand didn't have any wings enough to fly. You know why? There was no predators on New Zealand. Not a single one. There was no predators in New Zealand that will make a bird have to fly. And I brought that up to show you that the times that come in our lives that seem bad, and they shine the light on us and the Lord, is going to be the best times for you. It's going to make you look at yourself and say, you know what? Well, John ain't the problem, I am. And you're going to want to be closer to Him. And next week we're going to look at verses 1, 2, 3, and 4, because it tells you how to look at Him. It tells you how to see Him. That's what we all need. Let's stand.